Everybody, it's been almost exactly a year since I took this bike out for its maiden ride. Um, and I'm gonna get ready to do big makeover on it. And I just wanted to run through where it's right now. It's got kind of all black motif except for the tan wall tires. Flat black rattle can job I did myself. Um, this top tube bag, which may or may not be held on with zip ties at the moment. Um, what else? Oh, these Mavic all-road alloy gravel tires or gravel wheels. Currently, I'm running 700 by 35 cross bosses from WTB, which I really like a lot. They're actually great tires. But this is the setup that I've been running pretty much, other than changing tires out, since I put it together. And this is the way it is. But I thought we'd kind of look at it. Again, Mavic all-road wheel set. This is a micro shift 11 to 42 tooth 11-speed cassette, GRX 11-speed derailleur. Coming up front here, 2x GRX crankset. This is a used Bianchi fork I got on eBay. Salsa handlebars. A lot of this is going to stay. A lot of this is going to change. But I think we should probably bounce out of here and cut to the build montage. So the main motivation for wanting to repaint the bike was that I really wanted to add bosses for a top tube bag. So I had to drill holes in the top tube, which was nerve-wracking. And then I needed to silver solder braze bosses in, which also was a little nerve-wracking, and then completely wrecked the paint because I had to sand out the paint anyway, and then the heat burnt up some paint that was kind of beyond where I'd sanded it off. So since I got to repaint anyway, might as well change the black motif that I was getting tired of. So I just stripped down the bike to absolutely everything. One of the nice things about not having internal cable routing is everything just popped off. I didn't actually need to disconnect anything. And then I sanded it down, hit it with some, white, and then a little pearl coat at the top, and then some clear coat. Okay, so here's the big reveal. This is probably the most dramatic makeover a steel frame bike has ever got on the internet. You guys ready to see it? Ready? Here we go. Ba-ba-da-ba. So, I know what you're thinking. Doesn't look like your steel frame bike. It's because it's not. Here's my steel frame bike. My paint job. The light doesn't show it much, but there's like a pearl sheen in this. Spent quite a bit of time painting this up, trying to get it to look halfway decent. One of the reasons why I went flat black originally was because flat black hides all my crummy welds. The other thing that flat black hides is cracks. So I started putting this together. Obviously put the bottom bracket on little bits and pieces. I actually got quite far along, and then took it apart, and then put it back together and took it apart. But at one point in time, I was looking. I don't know how well that shows up on camera. Oh yeah, there you go. See that line? Right there? This little spot here where the seat stays meet the seat tube. Remember, I'm not a very good welder. This is one of the hardest spots. The seat tube's pretty thin right here. This is really narrow, lots of stuff going on. This is pretty thick wall compared to the seat tube. Really tight, try to get the torch in this little gap. Also, a lot of stress in here when I modified, kind of cold set the frame. Apparently, I put a crack in a seat stay. And it got bigger and bigger.
Now I noticed this about 3 weeks before the big Century ride John and I were supposed to do, and my brain starts scrambling. Because what am I gonna do? I can't ride this like this. If that breaks while I'm riding, bad deal. So my welder's out of gas. It's like a couple $100 to fill the tank. If I was gonna fix this for real, I wouldn't just weld that crack over. That is not the right way to fix that. I do want to fix this for real. I didn't have time to fix this for real before our big 100-mile bike ride kit coming up. And so I was like, what am I gonna do? I can ride my blue steel bike, the Blue Bomber, but you know, I had 25 mil tires on it. Not as comfortable a ride as this guy, with the big fatty tires I can get on it, fat in comparison. So I spent like a week hemming and hawing about what to do, and so then I decided, you know what? I can probably just find a frame, throw all the parts from black steel, which is now pearl steel, on a new frame, and just use that. So I found this, the Raleigh RXC cyclocross bike, 2017. I'm starting to be of the opinion that 5 to 10-year-old cyclocross bikes are where it's at. The reason for that is this is an all-carbon through axle disc brake roadish bike frame that can fit 34 mil tires. You know, you go back 7 years, most road bikes, a lot of them are rim brake still, pushing maybe 28s on them. One of the reasons why I built black steel was so I could get bigger tires than my Turn to Millennium steel bike frame could fit, which is 28's the limit. This puppy right here can fit, you know, right now on there's some 32s. I can probably get 36s on there if I want to, which is about as big as I can get on black steel or pearl steel. And I don't need to run anything bigger. If I want to run anything bigger than that, I'll take my hardtail. That's what that's for. So cyclocross bikes. You can even get older ones that are rim brake with V brakes. But you can get pretty big tires on those. Those things are cheap. I'm not gonna throw numbers around because my wife, who doesn't watch this channel, might actually watch this video. But I will say that recently John bought a pair of a Dura Ace pedals for his new bike, and they were more expensive than this frame cost me. This frame is like 400 grams lighter than this frame. This frame is Arrow. This frame has internal cable routing, semi-internal cable routing. You know, not a huge fan of carbon. Actually, I don't know. I have not ridden this bike yet. This will be the first carbon bike I've ever ridden. So we'll see how much I like carbon. I've always been skeptical of carbon. But this was a really good deal. Unfortunately, today, I just put this bar tape on. It's, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Today's the day that John and I were supposed to go on our big 100-mile bike ride, the Wine Country Century here in Sonoma County. We pulled out at 6:45 this morning. Got about 12 miles. My shoes had about 3 gallons of water in them. John's had about 10 gallons of water in them. 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts were pushing us around. And we both decided it was not safe to keep doing our ride. So I came home and finished this. So what the heck? Didn't I build this frame to ride that ride? Well, that was my plan. But a couple things happened. We're going to rewind the clock, do a little montage, build this, and explain why this bike did not get finished to ride today, which doesn't matter because it didn't get ridden today anyway. Thought I got a great steal. And then I realized probably the reason this guy was selling this frame he picked up was there's no headset. Probably 4 hours of Googling, 4 bike shops, plus 2 phone calls later. Just happened to pick this puppy up at Trail House, which is a local bike shop / coffee shop / brew pub. Good business model if you want. Pick this up for the price of just one bearing, and it's the whole headset. So cue the bike build montage.
That is not the first bike frame I've built up from scratch by myself. This is the first disc brake bike frame I've built up by myself, at least without John's help. And I can say there's few that combined with the internal cable routing kind of made this a little quirky. I also like kept jumping the gun, like get this bottom bracket in, and then I put the crank set on without any chain rings, which is dumb because I had to take the crank set off again to put the chain rings on it. At least the way I did that, you know, just standard bike build montage coming up here. But then I ran into a couple of things which are quite annoying.
Okay, so I thought this was going to be a simple just build montage, but turns out a couple things. One is I had to get some new bolts to fit this brake caliper on here because the ones I had were too short for this frame. The other thing was while I was tinkering and getting on here, I realized that the axle that comes with this frame doesn't fit in the hubs of the wheel set that I got off of John. Because this frame is from 2017, it's old enough that it's before they settled on a standard for through axles. And so I either had to figure out some weird way to adapt my 12 millimeter wheels to work with 15 millimeter axles, which is not easy to do. Other way around could have been better. Fortunately, when I bought the fork for my steel bike, I accidentally bought a tapered steer tube fork from actually a Trek Domane. And it didn't work because I had a straight steer tube on my steel frame. And I tried to sell this for like a year and nobody wanted it. But, boom, should be pretty close. Not sure how the geometry is going to change substantially, but I think it'd probably be okay. So now I got to swap out the fork. Not too bad. Back to the montage.
The one thing about kind of being a hacker is that nothing ever works the way you think it's going to go. So here we go. Disappointment coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Maybe not.
So it turns out that the races on those two forks are different, and they're kind of integrated, so they couldn't come off. So I had to figure out a different way. And what I ended up doing was getting an adapter to make the holes in the threads for 15 millimeter axle smaller, so that the 12 millimeter axle fits in the 15 millimeter frame. Which I am actually going to do a whole video on that separate to this because this video is getting too long. The other thing that I can see now is that chain ring is finally on. The problem that happened to me is the chain ring came in and the bolt holes were bigger than the bolts for a GRX, even though they were in the right places for the bolt pattern of the cranks. And so I had to make spacers. I'm also going to do a different video on that. And now I can see I'm kind of fishing the shifter cables in here. And I did the trick of setting up an empty cable from the back and then using that to guide, or an empty housing from the back and setting that to guide a cable down. And you see I have a pretty crappy work stand, so sometimes I got to get creative. Also, before anybody blasts me in the comments, anytime you see the work stand on the top tube, it's not clamped. just kind of hanging there. Anytime I had to do any kind of work that required loading that, I did something else. Really was just there to hold it up tight. And then, of course, the best thing about anything with disc brakes is bleeding them, which is loads of fun. And thankfully, John has all the tools you need to do that. Has the whole kit and everything. Took a couple times to make sure I got it right, but I got those brakes all bled out. And then I had brake fluid all over there and did lots and lots of cleaning to get it off the pads and the discs, which is annoying. But, that's how things work. Kind of the last thing I did here was put some bar tape on, which is not my favorite thing to do because I'm not very good at it. I am getting better as my years of tinkering bikes go, but not too bad. This is actually cyclocross specific tape that I happened to have. I was going to put on uh, the black bike, but it works for this.